long before the bright lights of America's Got Talent, long before millions of people around the world would hear his voice, there was a small boy living in a quiet, forgotten corner of the Philippines. His home stood at the edge of a village where the pavement ended and the dusty soil road began, a place where nights were long, food was often scarce, and dreams were something people rarely talked about out loud. The boy, only 12 years old, woke each morning not to sunlight but to the warm vibration of his mother's hand on his shoulder. He had never seen her face, not once in his entire life, but he knew her instantly through the softness of her touch, the gentleness of her breath, the way she whispered, "Anak, wake up." Another day. His world was darkness, but within that darkness lived music. Their home was small, just 2 rooms built from bamboo, patched wood, and tin roofing that rattled each time the wind blew too strongly. When rainstorms arrived, water leaked freely through the holes in the roof, dripping into old buckets placed strategically by his mother. The boy memorized the sound of each leak. He could tell which part of the roof was failing simply by listening. Since he was born blind, the world taught him to navigate using everything except sight. He learned how to feel the subtle bumps in the floor that told him when he was close to the door. He memorized the scent of every corner of the house. He learned that his mother's footsteps were soft but quick, his father's were heavy and slow, weighed down by exhaustion from endless labor jobs that barely paid enough to keep them alive. But despite the hardships, the boy carried one thing inside him that poverty couldn't crush: music. Every day after waking up, he would sit outside their home, where the early morning breeze brought the scent of rice fields and distant ocean wind. His mother would guide him gently with one hand, while holding a small portable radio in the other. It was old, with scratches all over it, and sometimes the signal faded in and out. But to the boy, that radio was magic. It was through that tiny speaker that he discovered the world he couldn't see. Voices, powerful, soaring voices, filled his mind with shapes and colors he could never witness with his eyes. He imagined how music looked. He imagined how stars shined. He imagined how stages glowed. Music was the only light he had ever known. His mother noticed this early. She would sit beside him in the mornings, humming softly while he practiced copying the melodies. At first, he sang shyly, but as the years passed, something extraordinary began to reveal itself. His voice, raw, emotional, and pure, carried a depth no child his age should have possessed. Every note he sang held the weight of struggle and the hope of something better. Still, life was not kind. Because he was blind, some children teased him. They called him names. They mocked the way he walked slowly, with his hand outstretched, searching for the ground ahead. Some even laughed at him when he sang, not because he was bad, but because they didn't understand him. But he kept singing. When the world tried to silence him, he sang louder. When poverty tried to crush him, he let his voice rise above it. Singing was not simply a hobby, it was survival. Every night after his father returned, home from a long day of carrying sacks at the port, the boy would sing to him. His father would sit quietly, listening. Those moments were the only times the man looked peaceful. Sometimes, the boy felt as if his voice was the only medicine his father could afford. One evening, during a local church gathering, the boy was asked to sing. He stood there, nervous and trembling, gripping the microphone as if it were the only solid thing in the world. But once he opened his mouth, the room fell silent. People cried. Strangers approached him afterward, holding his hands, telling him he had a gift, something divine, something meant to be shared. One foreign visitor at that gathering recorded him and posted it online. Days later, it went viral. And then, the unthinkable happened. A producer from America's Got Talent reached out. His mother cried when she heard the news. His father, a man who rarely expressed emotion, placed both hands on the boy's shoulders and whispered, "Anak, this is your chance." The boy didn't fully understand what AGT was. He had never seen television, but he felt the gravity in his parents' voices. He felt the trembling excitement in their hands. He knew something big was happening. Preparation for the journey was difficult. They barely had enough money for travel. A kind neighbor helped them raise funds. Another donated clothes. The village came together, not out of charity, but out of belief. The night before they left for America, the boy sat outside, listening to the wind rustle through the trees. He was scared, terrified, in fact. The world outside his small village felt like an endless, unknown ocean. but he placed a hand on his chest, felt his heartbeat, and whispered to himself, "My voice will guide me." When they finally arrived at AGT, the sheer size of everything overwhelmed him. The height of the building, the echoing sounds of people rushing by, the energy in the air. His mother never let go of his hand. She knew he needed her as his eyes. And now, standing backstage, listening to the distant applause from other performers, the boy felt his legs shake. But he also felt something else: purpose. The struggles of his entire life had led him to this moment. He wasn't here for fame. He wasn't here for money. He was here because singing was the only way he could show the world who he truly was. Not a blind boy, not a poor child from a forgotten village, but a voice born in darkness, shaped by hardship and carried by hope. And now, it was time for the world to hear it. A backstage assistant gently calls out, "You're next." The boy's heart begins pounding so loudly that he feels the vibrations in his chest. He tightly grips his mother's arm as she guides him forward. Every step toward the stage feels like stepping into another world, one he cannot see but can feel with overwhelming intensity. The stage entrance smells different from home. The scent of makeup, fabric, metal scaffolding, and cold studio air conditioning. The hum of cameras, the distant rumble of the audience, the buzz of electricity. Everything is louder, sharper, more intimidating. For a child who has never seen anything in his life, sound is his landscape, and right now, that landscape feels like a storm. His mother stops just before the entry curtain. She kneels beside him, places both hands on his cheeks, and whispers, "Anik, your voice brought you here. Let it guide you." He nods slowly, swallowing hard. A staff member gently takes his arm and says, "We'll walk you onto the stage now." The boy hesitates for a second, searching for his mother's hand, but she squeezes his fingers one last time, letting him know she's right behind him. Then the curtain opens, and the world explodes in sound. The sudden roar of the crowd, hundreds of voices, gasps, whispers, hits him like a wave. He freezes. His feet stop moving, his breathing quickens. The stage floor feels massive and unfamiliar beneath his shoes. Every sound bounces around him. He cannot tell where anything is coming from. To him, it feels like standing in the middle of chaos. But then, a single voice cuts through the noise. Simon Cowell. Calm, firm, focused. "Hello there," Simon calls out, his tone softened in a way that surprises even him. The boy turns his head instinctively toward the sound, trying to locate where Simon's voice came from. He clutches the microphone with both trembling hands, holding it like a lifeline. "What's your name?" Simon asks gently. The boy hesitates. His voice cracks slightly as he answers. "My name is Gabriel, sir." The audience softens, sensing his nervousness. Simon continues, "How old are you, Gabriel?" "I'm 12 years old." Another ripple of whispers flows through the room, people realizing just how young he is and how uncertain he sounds. Then Simon asks in a slightly softer tone, "I noticed your mom walked you in. Are you okay being here on your own?" Gabriel takes a shaky breath. I'm blind, sir, so this is my first time on a big stage." A hush falls over the entire auditorium. The judges silently exchange looks, Sophia placing a hand on her heart, Howie leaning forward, Heidi whispering something to herself. For the first time since he entered, the boy feels the energy shift. The room isn't judging him anymore, it's holding its breath for him. Simon rests his chin on his hand. "Well," he says softly, "you're incredibly brave to be here. What will you be singing for us today?" Gabriel squeezes the microphone tighter. "A song that helped me when I felt alone. I hope it reaches someone tonight." Simon nods. "Whenever you're ready." Silence fills the room, the kind of silence that only happens when thousands of people forget to breathe at the same time. The music begins, soft piano notes, echoing gently across the vast space. Gabriel tilts his head slightly, letting the first few notes wash over him. Music is his compass. It tells him where he is, what he feels, who he is. He takes one deep breath, and then he sings. The first note isn't just sound, it's emotion. Pure, trembling emotion that drips with pain, hope, longing, and something far older than his 12 years. His voice is soft at first, almost fragile, but filled with a kind of truth that instantly grips the audience. Simon's eyes widen. Sophia gasps. A woman in the front row covers her mouth with both hands. By the second line of the song, there is no doubt, this child has lived more than most adults. Every struggle he endured, every night spent singing in darkness, every moment he felt alone, every whisper of hope he carried, pours effortlessly from him. His voice grows stronger, soaring into the high notes with a clarity that defies his age. It's the kind of voice that doesn't just sound beautiful, it reaches into people's chests and makes them feel something. Some audience members begin crying quietly, others don't bother hiding it. One cameraman wipes his eyes while still filming. Simon sits completely still, eyes locked on the boy, jaw slightly open. Not because the voice is perfect, though it is, but because it is honest. Raw, soulful, the kind of voice that comes from someone who has suffered, hoped, endured, and kept going. Halfway through the performance, Gabriel hits a note so powerful, so unexpectedly emotional, that the entire room rises to its feet. The audience stands, clapping mid-song, unable to contain themselves. But Gabriel doesn't know they're standing, he can't see it. He only hears the shift in sound, the air changing, the applause vibrating around him, and for the first time on that stage, he smiles. Not a big smile, just a small, fragile one. But to those watching, it is the most beautiful thing in the world. The boy continues singing, pouring every ounce of his heart into the final chorus. His voice breaks, not from weakness, but from emotion. He feels the weight of the moment. He feels thousands of people listening. He feels his mother's presence behind the curtains. He feels the possibility of a new future. When he sings the final note, it hangs in the air like a prayer. A long silence follows, not because they didn't like it, but because they're stunned. Then the room erupts, a thunder of applause, chairs scraping, people shouting, judges rising, the audience screaming his name. It's an explosion of emotion, the kind only a performance fueled by pure heart can create. Gabriel is overwhelmed. He steps back slightly, breathing fast, unsure of what is happening. Then Simon speaks, slowly, emotionally, almost whispering. Gabriel, that was one of the most beautiful performances I've ever heard on this show. The crowd roars louder. Simon continues, voice breaking just a little. You didn't only sing, you told your story, and we felt every piece of it. Gabriel clutches the microphone to his chest, tears forming behind eyes that have never seen light. This is the moment he dreamed of. The moment his darkness finally met the world's light. And the night is only just beginning. For a few long seconds after Gabriel finishes singing, all he hears is sound, an ocean of applause crashing around him. He can't see the crowd rising to their feet, or the way hundreds of people are crying as if something deep inside them has been unlocked. But he can feel it. The vibrations of thousands of hands clapping shake through the stage floor and into his shoes. The roar of the audience feels like warmth surrounding him, lifting him. Gabriel doesn't know whether to smile, cry, or simply breathe. His body trembles. His hands shake around the microphone. His heart is racing as if it might burst. This moment, this explosion of emotion, is the biggest thing he has ever experienced. But then the audience slowly quiets down, and another silence fills the room. A heavy silence. A beautiful silence. The kind that says the world has just witnessed something unforgettable. Gabriel swallows hard and waits. And then Simon Cowell rises from his seat. The audience gasps, not because standing is unusual, but because of the look on Simon's face. The famously tough judge has tears in his eyes, not the kind of tears people fake for television, real ones. His eyes are glassy, his lips slightly trembling, his breath unsteady as he looks at the boy standing, alone in the center of the stage. Gabriel hears the soft scrape of Simon's chair and turns his head toward the sound. Gabriel, Simon begins, his voice low, heavy with emotion. I don't cry often. The crowd chuckles softly through their tears. Simon pauses, wiping the corner of his eye with his thumb. But what you just did, that wasn't singing, that was a miracle. The entire room erupts with applause again, loud, thunderous, unstoppable. Gabriel nearly drops the microphone as his knees weaken. He has never heard someone speak about him like that. Simon lifts a hand gently, signaling the audience to calm down. You came out here alone, Simon says, with so much fear, so much courage, and a voice that felt like it came from heaven itself. Gabriel's breath hitches. He presses a hand to his chest, overwhelmed. Simon continues, "You made us forget that you are 12 years old. You made us forget that you can't see. You made us forget everything, except how it feels to truly listen." Sofia Vergara is already crying openly. Heidi Klum wipes her tears with a tissue. Howie Mandel leans forward, staring at Gabriel as if he can't believe he's real. Simon steps closer to the front of the judges' panel. "I want you to know something," he says softly. "Your struggle, your journey, your heart, they reached every single person in this theater." Gabriel's lips part, trembling. He tries to speak, but no words come out. Simon takes a deep breath. "And because of that, I want to give you something." The audience collectively inhales. Every single person knowing what's coming, feeling it, waiting for it. Gabriel stands still, confused. He can sense a shift in the air but doesn't know what it means. Simon looks at him with a rare softness, a father-like expression filled with pride, tenderness, and awe. "This," Simon says, "is for you." Then, slam! Simon's hand crashes down on the golden buzzer. The sound echoes like a thunderclap. The crowd explodes. A cannon of gold bursts from above, shooting glittering confetti into the air. It rains down in shimmering waves, sparkling under the stage lights. The entire room feels like it has erupted into sunlight. Gabriel hears the explosion of cheers, the sudden boom of music, the gasps, the screams, and then the fluttering sound. The confetti falls around him like soft rain. He reaches out instinctively, hands shaking as he tries to touch it. He feels tiny pieces land on his palms, his hair, his shoulders. His face breaks into the brightest, purest smile of his life, one that seems to light up the darkness inside him. He whispers, "Mama, Mama." From backstage, his mother bursts onto the stage, running toward him with tears streaming down her face. She wraps her arms around him, pulling him into the tightest embrace she has ever given. Gabriel clings to her, his body shaking uncontrollably as he tries to process the magnitude of what's happening. "I can feel it, Mama," he cries. "I can feel it." His mother sobs into his hair. "Yes, Anak, the world can feel you too." The confetti continues falling like a golden waterfall. Simon watches the moment quietly, his eyes still red. He smiles, a small, emotional smile that says everything words cannot. He leans into the microphone once more. "Gabriel, you have just changed your life." The audience screams in agreement. "You belong here," Simon says firmly, "not because of your story, not because of your blindness, but because your voice is a gift the world needs to hear." Gabriel buries his face in his mother's shoulder, crying openly now. His small body trembles with every sob, not sadness, but overwhelming relief, overwhelming joy, overwhelming realization that after years of darkness, loneliness, poverty, and struggle, something extraordinary is finally happening. His mother pulls him back gently so she can cup his cheeks. "I'm proud of you," she whispers. "You did it. My son, you did it." Gabriel nods through his tears, his voice barely a whisper. "For us, Mama. I did it for us." Behind them, the stage glitters like a dream. Simon stands smiling. The judges clap. The audience chants his name. "Gabriel! Gabriel! Gabriel!" The boy stands there, in the middle of the golden rain, listening to a world he cannot see, but can finally feel completely. In that moment, Gabriel understands something powerful. He may not have sight. He may have grown up in darkness. He may have faced a life of struggle and pain. But the light he brought into the world, through his voice, was brighter than anything his eyes could ever have shown him. This was not just a performance, not just an audition, not just a golden buzzer. It was the beginning of a new life. A life where the boy who could not see finally became someone the whole world would never forget.